Well, welcome to Grace Sunday Nights. My name is Josh Gallagher. If you're visiting with us, I want to say thank you for taking time to join us this evening, and we are going to have a great time together. We're in the middle of a series called Game On, and the point of this series is to help you win at life. Whatever your goal is in life, we want to help you win at that, and that's the whole point of this series. We've noticed there's a lot of similarities between games and life. They follow some similar principles, and here's what they are. Games, every single game has a purpose. And after that purpose, there is a scoreboard, an internal scoreboard and maybe an external scoreboard to determine the scoring. Then after that, there's guidelines, things that keep us playing the game like we should. There's disciplines we need to understand. And then finally, there's prizes at the very end for if we play the game well. Well, these principles apply to games, and they also apply to our lives. And last week, we took some time and we looked at the first two, and we really wanted to look at the question, what is our purpose? And how do we score at our purpose? Because there's a big difference in the way you play the game of football and the way you play the game of rugby. Or there's a big difference between the way you play golf and the way you play tic-tac-toe. If you don't understand your purpose, you're gonna have a hard time understanding the rest of these. If you weren't here last week, I would encourage you to go online, roswellgrace.com, click on the message from last week, and you can have a better understanding of maybe what your purpose is and how to win at that purpose. But last week was the best week of Grace Sunday Nights we have ever had. Hands down. Here's why. One of our values is we want people to connect with God here, but also throughout the week. And so at the end of the message last week, we encouraged people to sign up for our continuing connection. And what it was a simple text message where people could text in and get part of a group thread. And when they did that, throughout the message, they would receive throughout this week, they would receive text message based on what we've talked about. And through that time, we asked questions like, what do you want to be remembered for? If God was to stand in front of you right now, what would you say? I mean, things that would make you think. But then there was also passages to read. I want to share just one highlight from you. Somebody texted in. At the end of the week, I said, okay, basically everything that we've talked about, what is your purpose? This is what this person texted in. This is just one of them. My purpose is to raise my children to walk the path of the Lord and to spread peace among others. And I can win at this purpose by reorganizing my priorities. That is a win here at Grace Sunday Nights. Because it's not just about the half hour that we have together with the teaching or the half hour with the worship. This is about a whole week experience. And we encouraged everyone that signed up that if you engaged with this process this past week, we were going to make a $5 donation to a local school. Well, the school that is the recipient of this money is actually Del Norte Elementary School. They're one of the closest schools in proximity to our church. Every year, the teachers have to stay late a couple nights a week, or a couple nights throughout the year, to put in some extra work. Well, we had over 40 people sign up and engage with that process. As a result, we are making a $200 donation to the school, and that donation is going to feed those teachers for 2 nights on Grace Sunday Nights, because you chose to engage with this message and what God was teaching you all week long. I told you, it was an amazing week. Hopefully you grew, and these teachers are going to receive the benefits of what you did this past week. So thank you for being a part of that. But we get to keep going. The series isn't done yet. We're going to keep moving on. And the next thing we're going to be looking at is the guidelines. The guidelines, there's always guidelines in any game. These are the things, some people might call them rules, but it's the way you play the game. A simple way to look at it is like guardrails. When you're traveling along the interstate or a highway and there's maybe a big cliff on one side, they put up guardrails to keep you from falling off. It's the same thing in your life. There needs to be guardrails or guidelines around your purpose. Sometimes these guidelines are very simple. Let's say your new purpose in life is to lose weight. That's easy. Your guidelines, more calories out than in. It's simple. But guidelines are supposed to be simple, because if you take too much time focusing on the guidelines, you're going to miss the game in front of you, but you need to understand them. Unfortunately, in the church, we make these guidelines way too complicated. And when that happens, people usually leave here saying, okay, how does this all work again? Because I don't really understand it. Instead, I think the guidelines should be a whole lot simpler, much like this. Dodgeball guidelines. Very simple. Dodge the ball, hit someone else with the ball. Did you know the guidelines for following God, if he is any part of your purpose, they are that simple. And sometimes we make them way too complex, but they're not. They're very simple, and they can be summarized in 2 phrases. And that phrase that we're going to be looking at comes from Matthew 22, 34 through 40. If you want to pull out your Bibles, they're there in front of you. In the dark blue Bibles, they're on page 1535. On the light blue Bibles, page 1507. Or if you have a smartphone or a tablet, feel free to take that out now. We're going to look at this passage, because in this passage, we're going to see the simple guidelines that God has for us. If any part of our purpose in this life is to serve or honor him, these are the guidelines that need to guide us. The context of this passage is very interesting. Jesus has been doing a great job at ministering to people, healing people, and the religious leaders don't like it. So they decide one day they're going to all get together, and they're going to try to trap Jesus in his words. So they come up to him, and the first thing they ask him about taxes. If you want to trap anybody in a public forum, ask him about taxes. That's what they did. Well, Jesus gave them a great response. Then they asked him about the resurrection, and Jesus gave them another great response. There's one final question that they're going to try to trap him with, and it's in this moment we see the simple guidelines that Jesus sets out for us to follow him. I'm going to be reading from the New Living Translation. It says this in verse 4. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, probably a lawyer, tested him with this question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Now he is referring to the Old Testament law here that was given to Moses by God. It is believed that there was over 613 laws that the Jewish people were supposed to follow. So this expert in the law is saying, okay, Jesus, out of the 613, which they believed, okay, all of these are important, but yeah, some are maybe more important than the others, which is the greatest? If he gets this wrong, they have grounds to say, nope, we don't believe you, you're not the Son of God, we don't have to listen to anything you say. Listen how Jesus responds, verse 37. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. He is quoting Deuteronomy 6:5. This was part of the Shema. If you were a pious Jew, you quoted this probably at least twice a day, and they would start this at the beginning of all of their services. So probably it's like, okay, good answer. But Jesus doesn't stop there. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19:18 is what he's quoting here. The lawyer only asked for one, but Jesus gave him two. Why did he do that? Verse 40. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Jesus doesn't say, I'm not just going to sum up the law for you, the 613 laws that you're talking about. I'm going to sum up your whole Bible, what we consider the New Testament, what the Jews consider their whole Bible. And he says, I'm going to sum it all up. Love God, love others. And when he does this, they're silenced because he answered correctly. And this isn't the only place this concept, these guidelines of loving God and others show up. It goes way back to the very beginning that God spoke to Moses. Look at this. You've probably heard these before. It's called the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments have 2 guidelines. Love God, love others. Look at this. You shall have no other gods, no images of other gods. Don't misuse God's name. Hold the Sabbath. What is this? This is practical ways that you can love God. Then the next 6. Honor your mom and dad. You shouldn't murder. Don't commit adultery. You're not supposed to steal. You're not supposed to lie. You're not supposed to covet. Why? Because these are all things that will keep you from loving others. The guidelines for following God are simple. Love God, love others. If you do this, you're going to be on track to fulfill your purpose. If God is any part of that purpose, it's that simple. Now, we do different things to make that happen, yes. But it's simply love God, love others. If what you're doing falls in between those guidelines, you're going to be on the right path. That's guidelines. Next, we get to move on to the D word. And the D word is disciplines. Every game you play, there is some sort of discipline. If you play baseball, it's fielding the ball, it's hitting the ball. If it's golf, some way you got to take that little hole and hit it. You got to take that little ball and hit it in that small hole on the other end of the course. That takes discipline. So here's what I need you to do. Take out your cell phones. When you hear the word disciplines, what words or images come to your mind? Text that into 575-347-1360. One word, one image, whatever it might be. Go ahead and text it in because I want to know where we're at with this whole concept of disciplines. Because if we're going to move forward in our purpose, whatever it is, we need to understand the disciplines that go with it. He's a 4-time Super Bowl champion. He's a 3-time Super Bowl MVP, and he is a 12-time Pro Bowler. And he has something that he wants to tell you about disciplines. Check it out. Every single day, no matter what. I love the closing line. You are the sum of all of your training. A discipline is something you do consistently, maybe every single day, to help you win. That's it. If you're a professional quarterback, you do drills every single day to help you win. If you're a golfer, you work on your swing every single day to help you hit the ball far. Games take discipline, and a discipline is something you do every single day. Here were some of your responses of how you view discipline. This is a good one. The hard stuff. It is. Commitment. Practice. Focused attention. Constant. If any part of your paradigm for disciplines is negative, I have a goal for the next 5 minutes. I want to change your perspective and your paradigm on disciplines. Because disciplines bring victory. Disciplines bring victory. If you're not disciplined in whatever your purpose is, you will never win. Never win. And there's a story that Jesus talks about why disciplines are so crucial. And we're going to take a quick look at it. It comes from Matthew 7, 24 through 27 again. Dark blue Bibles, 1506. Light blue Bibles, 1478. And in this passage, Jesus is going to show us why disciplines are so important and why they affect our purpose, whatever our purpose might be. The context of this passage is extremely important. Matthew, the author, the man who wrote down these words, he takes 3 chapters to lay out this sermon that Jesus speaks. And when he does this, it's amazing. No other author takes that many chapters to really kind of look at one thing that happened. But Matthew says, this is important. I'm going to lay out this whole sermon. We call it the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus goes through a whole ton of topics. But the very last one, this is it, this is the capstone teaching, is what we're going to be reading next. I'm going to be reading from the ESV. Here's what it says in verse 24. Remember, he's done all of this preaching. This is his last thought. Here's what he wants people to remember. Everyone then who hears these words of mine, this is key, listen, and does them, will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Imagine with me, you have built your dream house. It's your perfect house. It has a 4-car garage. It has an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It has that 97-inch TV with theater seating, the big open living room. It's amazing. It is your dream house. Get that picture in your mind. Now we pick it up in verse 25 with that image. And then the rain fell, and the floods came. And the winds blew and beat on that house, or beat on your dream house. It was attacked in 3 ways. The rain, the floods, and the winds are battering your dream, your house. Jesus says, but it did not fall. Why? Because it had been founded on the rock. From the beginning, before you had any of that house come into reality, you built a solid foundation. And you get to still enjoy your dream house even after it was attacked. Jesus goes on. And everyone who hears these words of mine, same phrase, and does not keep them, will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. Now let's imagine someone else has their dream house and they build their dream house. And it doesn't have a 96-inch TV. Oh no, it's got a 120-inch TV. And it's not a 4-car garage. It is a 6-car garage. And they have 2 swimming pools and a sauna. I've always wanted a sauna. I don't know if I'm going to ever get one. And they built this amazing house. Well, guess what happens? Their house is going to come under attack, just like yours. Jesus says, and the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Same 3 things: wind, rain, flood. Same thing that happened to your house. But listen to the result. And it fell, and great was the fall of it. Because all of their dreams that were wrapped up in that house fell. Because from the beginning, it was doomed to destruction because it had no foundation at all. They wanted to skip the foundation because that costs money. It's not a lot of fun. And I just want to see my house built. So they did, and they enjoyed it for a while, but then it was destroyed. I don't do this very often, so tonight is a treat. See this? This is my soapbox. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a little bit. Most pastors get probably on soapboxes to speak down to people. Not tonight. I want to use my soapbox to lift you up, and here's why. Who was victorious in the passage we just read? It wasn't the person that heard it because they both heard it. It was the person who disciplined himself and did it. And when did they decide to be victorious? From the very beginning, he said, I'm going to build this house on a foundation. I'm going to put this into action. That's what made him victorious. You guys have no idea how bad I want you to win. You have no clue what God has in store for you. You don't. You don't even understand it. The thing that is going to keep you from being all that God wants you to be is not even understanding fully your purpose. It's not the guidelines. It's not the prize. It is the disciplines, the things you do every single day. That is what is going to ultimately determine if you are successful in your purpose or you completely fail. I don't want any of you to fail. I want you to be successful in everything that God has planned for you, even before you were born. But it comes down to your disciplines. What you do every single day is what matters. And before I get off my soapbox, I have one question. Is your purpose a priority or is it a convenience? Is it a priority or a convenience? Here's the difference. A priority says, this is more important than anything else that I am doing. A convenience says, I'm going to get around to it when I have time or when it's easy. If you treat your purpose like a convenience, well, I hope I get time to it, I get around to it, you're never going to be successful. But if it's a priority of saying, I know what my purpose is, and I'm going to take my life, and I'm going to make this one of my top priorities, I'm going to schedule around it, I'm going to finance it, I'm going to do everything I can, you will be successful. But the problem is that we have settled for, we think it's good if I just view it as convenience. I have a really good attitude. I have a great intention. You're not going to win at your purpose. When it's a convenience, you say, I understand my purpose, but I already have my life, and I already have my disciplines, and I'm going to see if any of my purpose can fit in with what I'm already doing. That's a convenience. A priority says, I know what my purpose is. I'm going to take my whole life and rearrange my life around my purpose. What I do every single day. When you do that, it's a priority. When you just try to fit your purpose into what you're already doing, it's a convenience. I want you to win. Flat out. I want you to win. But the number one factor that will determine if you win or lose is your disciplines. What you do every single day. All right, I'm done. I'll get off. In case you're wondering, yes, my soapbox is pink. If any part of your purpose has to do with God, there are 3 disciplines that you need to be doing every single day or consistently. And the way they flesh out in your life are going to be different. But they're always the same. Here's what they are. Listen, talk, and act. These are 3 things that you need to memorize and you need to understand and you need to discipline yourself to do. Because discipline brings victory. If you do these 3, you will be victorious in your purpose. Guaranteed. They have been tested time after time, and they have proven faithful for people throughout the generations. So don't think that you can be victorious at following God without doing these. You won't. Here's what they are. Every day, some way, somehow, you've got to listen to God. You've got to read his word. You've got to listen to messages, listen to worship music. You've got to hear from him. After that, you need to talk to him. He wants to hear what's going on, and we call this prayer, but it's simply just a conversation between you and him. Then this is the big one, and what Jesus talked about in his parable. You've got to act on it. If he shows you something that you need to make right in your life, you have to do it. Because if you don't, you're going to be like the man who built his house on the sand, saying, I don't want to worry about that. It's going to mess with my routine. It's going to mess with my schedule. Your purpose is doomed to destruction. If it has to do with following God. Listen, talk, and act. You do those 3 things, and if God is any part of your purpose, you will be successful. Those are 3 disciplines you need to do every single day. And how you flesh them out, that's up to you. But that's what you need to do. So we've looked at guidelines. We've looked at disciplines. Here at Grace Sunday Nights, we don't want to just stop at inspiration. Up to this point, you might say, hey, that was inspiring, all except for the pink soapbox thing. That was a little weird, but I'm okay with it. That was inspiring. We want to inspire you, but more than that, we want to move you to action. We want to move from inspiration to action. That was everything that we looked at tonight with Jesus and what he talked about. It's no good if you just hear the word. So there's 2 ways that I want to call you to action so you can live out the purpose that God has for you. Here's the first one. This week again, we're going to have a consistent connection. Where we're going to take these concepts and principles and we're going to flesh them out and we're going to live them out again this week as we listen, talk, and act on what God wants us to do. Here's how you can sign up for it. In the number line of your cell phone, simply text 81010. Put that in the number line. Then after that, you have 3 options of what you can do. In the message line, you can write the first one at GSN Game On 2. Here's the difference. If you text in at GSN Game On 2, you're going to receive text messages 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday. And they will be messages that will help you read, talk, or listen, talk, and act with what God is teaching us in this area. Or if you sign up for GSN at GSN Game On 4, you're going to receive these text messages 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Or if you want to go for the whole thing at GSN Game On 6, you're going to receive text message every single day that will help you live out this concept of fulfilling your purpose and being disciplined at that purpose. Because here at Grace Sunday Nights, it's not just about an hour experience. It's about a lifelong, week-long experience where we consistently connect with God as we read, listen, talk to him, and then act on what he shows us. That's the first thing. You can sign up for that at any time, and every person that engages again this week, we're going to make a $5 donation to a nonprofit organization here in Roswell. So you're not only benefiting yourself, you're benefiting the community. And after that, we have one other thing that we want to do. It's called the Spiritual Health Assessment. Tonight was all about disciplines, what we do consistently to help us win at our purpose. We have come together and we've outlined some disciplines. And every single one of these disciplines follow the guidelines of what God wants us to do, of loving him and then loving others. They're right under the chairs in front of you. Go ahead and pull one out right now. I'm going to ask that in the next 3-4 minutes, you fill this out. I don't want your name on it. I don't want anything on there that reflects who you are. But this is a chance for you to get an idea of where you're at maybe in your disciplines. Because if God is any part of your purpose, these are things that you need to be looking at. The front copy is for you to fill out. The second copy is for you to take home. Again, these are some disciplines that you can start using in your life. And while you're filling this out, John Cantu is going to come up and he's going to play a song for us, and it's a perfect song for what we're doing. It's called "Oh, How He Loves." And the reason we picked this song is because as we're going through this, maybe you're sitting there saying, I'm doing horrible. I have great news for you. He loves you. There's nothing you can do to make him love you more. Or if you're sitting there and you're like, I got this. I got this. His love for you is not based on your works. But we do these disciplines so we can win. That's why we do them. So take some time right now. There's some pens in front of you. Start filling those out. And when you're finished, you can go ahead and just listen to John as he sings this song.
Love's like a hurricane, I am a tree, bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions, he lives by glory. I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. He loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. We are his portion and he's our prize. Drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If grace is an ocean, we're all sinking. So heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss. My heart turns violently inside of my chest. I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves.
In every single game, there are guidelines and there are disciplines. You need to understand the guidelines. But if you don't practice the disciplines of any game, you will never truly be successful at it. You might have great intentions, but you will never taste victory. Because disciplines, what we do every single day, will ultimately determine if we are victorious in our victory or not. Let's pray. God, thank you for the guidelines of following you, that it's simply we get to love you and we get to love others. But within those guidelines, there are many things that we can do. But you want us to spend time listening to you, talking to you, and acting on what you show us. And as we do that, more of our purpose will be fulfilled, and we will experience that victory. So God, we ask that as we get ready to leave this next week, allow us to apply and continue to grow in this area so that we can be victorious at the purpose that you've set out for us. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.